This week's episode is sponsored by Change. Change is the #1 mentoring program that teaches you e-commerce from scratch. Change has a real community with real results. I have been working with Ryan for many years now and have attended many of his events and retreats across the world and got to meet members and the amazing community of like-minded people. Ryan works with a lot of big names in the business world, helping them build online businesses and e-commerce. Change offers personal one-on-one support, no experience needed, but like anything, this takes time and is not a get-rich-quick scheme. If you put the work in, you will get the results. E-commerce and online shopping is getting bigger and bigger. This is a great opportunity for anyone that is looking for financial freedom. For more information, go follow Ryan on Instagram at RyanJB, and he will guide you through the steps to help you get started and build a successful online business. You can now follow me on all my social media platforms to find out who my latest guest will be. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you're notified for when my next podcast goes live. And boom, we're on. And today's guest, we've got Jamie Edwards. Jamie, how are we?
I'm all right, James. I'm appreciative of your time, and I'm appreciative to tell my story.
Yeah, listen, thanks for coming on the show. You were close to John McAfee. How do you say John's second name?
John McAfee. I think it's different. I think dependent whether from the UK, the US, there's different interpretations. Yeah. To me, it's John McAfee.
You are with John McAfee, kind of very notorious, a bit of a character. They've got the documentary on Netflix, which you appear on. There's been rumours he's killed his dad, he's killed his neighbour. There was a fake suicide. He was a wanted man, but I think his hardware and his software for the antivirus for the computers, it's worth billions and billions of pounds. I'm sure from my own recollection is that he sold it for 100 million. I think you had said that as well.
100 million to Intel, which if you go back in time, James, that was a lot of money.
In the 90s.
Yeah, it was a lot of money.
Yeah, was very ahead of his time, very flamboyant, loved his guns, his drugs, his women.
Worked on the Apollo 13 program, he was out there.
Yeah, he worked in NASA.
He was clever.
Yeah, very clever man. But you were with him first hand, which we'll get into. But before we get into all the madness, brother, I always like to go back to the start with my guests, get more of a bit of understanding about you, Jamie, where you grew up and how it all began.
No problem at all. So I grew up in Stockport, which is a town close to Manchester, or if you're within the area, you could call it Manchester, but I'm from Stockport. I'd like to say I lived a pretty privileged life as a kid. My mum did everything that she could for me. I did well in school. I was always an achiever. I worked hard. I always had the ambition to get out there and do something and be a bit unordinary, on average.
How was your family life? Do you have a big family?
I come from a very big family. On my dad's side, that is, specifically. And you've got a transition, chalk and cheese. My mum and my dad were completely different. I always look back and think, how did they get together? But that's kind of what happens in today's society. I think women tend to go for a particular type of man nowadays. I think social media's had some sort of an influence or conditioning on that. But yeah, my mum and dad were both workers, normal lifestyle. Unfortunately, my dad did turn to alcohol. He turned into a severe alcoholic, which took his life, unfortunately. So that's deterred me away from that. So I've had to deal with trauma of my dad passing away, which was about 5 years ago. And I've had to be the man, the stronghold of the family, the support of my mum and my sister if they need me to be there. It's distant, but I'm there if they need me to be.
Yeah, that's the main thing, is to show support. I think that's our main roles. But it's difficult when you lose a loved one because we don't really know how to process it.
Yeah, but I think for me, I never grieved for my father. I don't know why specifically I'm speaking about my dad just on that question that you've asked me. So it's often something which is quite relevant in my life. But yeah, so.
What was your first job?
My first job, I was an insurance salesman for an insurance company, and I was doing repetitive kind of telesales over the telephone. The type of job that you want to slit your wrist with.
What else did you do after that?
After that, I did microelectronical soldering until we had a transition in the world and we had the introduction of the blockchain, and then my interest switched to blockchain technology and how I can make money online. So I've had a pretty normal working career, shall we say, James.
So how did you end up involved with John? How does that kind of combination come about?
Complete honesty, at the time I was broke, James. I had no money. I had no money at all, and I was trying to have an innovative creation in my mind of how I could make some money. So I was playing on cryptocurrency, mobile gaming applications where you could earn small increments of cryptocurrency. And moral of the story, it was a waste of time. It'd take you absolutely weeks to earn a little bit of money. So I had this vision in my head. I thought I could make one better than one of these. So I could make an app which would actually pay to the people that played it. So coincidentally, at the time, I was initiated as a Freemason. Within Freemasonry, I met a mobile application developer just by chance, like the university just bended for me. He built the application, and I pitched John McAfee with the idea for him to endorse it, voice it over. It was effectively a replica of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but voiced over by John. And it had two elements to it, where it was a family-friendly version and an adult version. And he actually spoke through the application to people, cursed people, sweared at people, etc. So that's how I met him, through mobile application proposal.
How did you get in contact with him?
I sent him a direct message on Twitter, and I was quite repetitive on his comments. I was just going in. I was making sure I got his attention. And he read my pitch, and one word reply, deal. And he invited me to the Bahamas, and the chaos started.
Did you know about his lifestyle beforehand?
Well, at this time, I didn't really know who he was. I just knew he had an influence on Twitter. He was a big advocate in the cryptocurrency world. He had a large reach. So no one knew nothing about him, but I watched a previous documentary about him, and then I got an insight to think this guy's he's dangerous. He's a bit out there. He's done some things.
Yeah, even in a documentary on Netflix, it speaks about him killing his dad and killing a neighbour, which we'll touch on. But he's certainly not a man to be messed with. But he seemed to have kept the right people. He seemed to have kept people around him who would do damage for him as well. But money talks, and if you've got that level of money, it was very shrewd. The way I get it, everything's a chess game to him. He puts out there exactly what he wants people to think, whether it's true or whether it's false. But it's the technique that he got, and that's what I was watching. I think this man's sometimes 5 steps ahead of everybody else, but then again, he makes mistakes, but I don't know if they're putting there purposely as well, you know?
After spending a lot of time with him, James, I established he was a master manipulator, and he was a genius. He was a good actor. So whatever narrative he wanted, he would create. He would fabricate that reality. That's how clever he was.
So his lifestyle, was he on the run at this point?
He was on the run at this point, or allegedly on the run. I have to look back now, and I have to think at the time, was he deluded? Was he bonkers? Was he making everybody paranoid? But in hindsight, if I look back in remnants, I do think he was wanted, absolutely, because some of the things that I seen on the boat, he was taunting some powerful people and entities. Yeah.
When you talk about entities, what do you mean?
The US embassy. He was threatening the US embassy.
Because his software he created, he sold for 100 million, but his software still gets used to this day, and it's worth, I think they say, 16 to 20 billion.
Personally, and this is only my biased opinion, I'd never recommend it to anybody, even after he sold the company, because there's speculation that it cannot be removed from a device after it's been installed, and the only way to uninstall it is to literally burn your laptop. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but based on what I've seen first-hand company of John McAfee, that's certainly possible.
I seen an interview that he'd done, I think it might have been Patrick Bet-David 7 years ago, and they was talking about the internet is free because it takes everybody's information and data. It's there for a reason, so it knows everybody's move. It's got your location, it's got your phone numbers, it's got all your photos, it's got all your banking. It's all set up to control the masses. Now he says this, and it was spot on. Do you think his kind of antivirus thing was to gather people's information as well? Could he have been working with the CIA?
I personally believe John was CIA. When I was on the boat, I was having him speak to what he would refer to as CIA contacts. I didn't doubt it. He was that powerful. And the antivirus, when if I have a recollection of when he initially dropped it to the world, if again at that particular time, and we're going back a long time here, James, he fabricated a reality that there was going to be some sort of a bug, some sort of threat, and he put fear into people. So everybody bought this software and the threat never happened. But from a business perspective, he was kind of one of the first major players in selling antivirus to the masses.
Fear's the biggest control of the world, though. You feed them with fear, and they want protected. Same as lockdowns. It's the fear. The biggest virus is coming. Protect yourself. There was nothing. There was no virus.
I don't really want to go into that too much, but in my opinion, you've got some very high, powerful, sadistic people that are basically trying to play some sort of weird computer game, and they have goals against each other. And COVID was somebody playing a game. That's my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. So you've kind of, when you meet him for the first time, what was that experience?
I was waiting at the Exuma Yacht Club, which is owned by a celebrity. So I had the experience of mingling with multiple celebrities before I actually even got to meet John. At that particular time, I had arrived on the island of Exuma, and he was shopping. He was absent at that particular time, and when he arrived, he kind of did a bit of an acknowledgement of me. He waved at me and said, "Come on down to the boat." He was dressed in some ridiculous outfit, some like Mexican style hat. So I went down to the boat. We've got barking aggressive dogs, Alsatians, German Shepherds. We've got Bohemian security guards who at this time I don't know. There could be anybody. I walk on the boat and he death stares through me, literally looks me straight in the eye and says, "My name's John McAfee," and we have a powerful, powerful handshake. And then it gets weird. It gets weird from there.
How so?
I think I arrived, James, at a time where John was dealing with his own individual demons and issues, and there was a lot of drink, there was a lot of drugs. So I don't think I was getting a true reflection of who he was. I was getting a dissolved version.
Where do you think it started going wrong for him? When he made 100 million, surely he's comfortable. Like in the mindset, do you think he was psychotic just with the games and the stuff that he says? And how do we even know what was true with him?
He was a compulsive liar. From the get-go, I established that. He told lies, but I think he did that purposely. He tested people. He was, in my opinion, he was a few steps ahead of people. He did things on purpose.
Do you think, like you say, he was a genius?
He's definitely a genius to be able to trick the world into buying antivirus, multi-millions of users when there was no threat. I'm appreciative that software was new. It was a new creation. People needed it, but he was clever enough to make people buy it. He was a clever businessman, absolutely.
So why was he saying he was on the run? Is it tax invasion? What was it? What was his purpose?
Multiple things. So this is all part of him being very extravagant and very elaborate and probably telling lies or exaggerating the truth. Whether that's the case or not, I don't know. But he was saying he was on the run for murder, tax evasion. From what I've seen on the boat, he'd hacked a lot of people. It's powerful entities. When I say entities, we're talking maybe it was suggested the White House. You know, that high up, he had the capability to hack people on that extreme level. And then you've got to take in consideration if he was doing that, then he would certainly be a wanted man. But I don't know whether that was the truth or not. But that was the impression that was given.
Because like they say, when they say things like the CIA invented rap music and starting to fuck about with the frequency and get people to follow a certain narrative, it's the same as him. Did you think he's potentially created this antivirus to get into people's software and have all that information where he can control it and hack them whenever he wants, where he was a plant for the big companies like the White House and all these, he kind of had a free pass to do what he wants?
There's definitely a high probability that would be the case.
Was there any telltale signs that could have been the case?
When I was on the boat, I seen CIA level tech. I seen some things which I didn't quite believe was real. But I seen listening devices which were 2mm by 2mm transparent stickers that you could stick on a wall and use as a listening device. Seen it active, things like that. You know, those things exist. He had a ring where he could touch any mobile device and we would clone it just through the technology that was within that ring. And if I look at the technology that's available nowadays with your fitness rings, which can monitor your heart rate and things like that, then it's certainly possible to put some sort of software into a ring. So I believe that these things were possible, and he certainly hacked my phone.
Do you think he would have done his background checks, of course, before you had met him?
He told me that anybody that approached his boat, all of the social media accounts and their mobile phones were checked before they even entered the boat through some sort of CIA level technology. I believe that. I've seen some things on the boat, so I believe that. I've seen some things with my own devices, so I believe that. So he certainly had the capability and the reach to find out anything about anybody anywhere in the world.
Scary, that. Yeah. Definitely scary. Because I'm thinking when he's on the run, and he's getting people to meet him at airports and restaurants and 5-star hotels. I'm thinking, you're easily got. So is that just a case of, I wouldn't say maybe immunity, but he's so high up where it was just all a game to make his name even bigger, to just play a game with the masses, because if he had that much money, that much intelligence, whatever he wanted to do, he could have done. Do you think it was just his own gain, just playing games with everybody?
I think he got to the point in life where he'd done a lot of things. He travelled the world, he'd experienced a lot of things where he liked playing games and he had a lot of money, so he could buy anything and anybody. He spent a lot of time in Belize. He bought the police, he bought the governments, anybody that could be bought, he bought them. He targeted, I don't know if targeted is the right word because he was in a particular vicinity, but there was locals in that particular area that had no money. You could call it a third world country. So they're going to do anything for 4 or 5 figures, you know. So John had the capability to make pretty much anybody do anything. Yeah.
Do you think that was his manipulation tactics? So
he loved it. He was a narcissist. He loved it.
Did you see that, or were you oblivious to his tactics, not knowing what he was capable of?
After I got into a comfort level, so I had a bedroom on the boat, I had a bedroom at the yacht club, I was kind of integrated into his family. Some weird stuff, you know, I was getting called son before, or I went to bed, good night, some things like that. So I was in his personal domain, so I certainly got an insight to think, right, okay, I've seen the real you now. I've seen like him being a soft old man, you know, probably a lonely old man at some points. That's why he likes a lot of people around him. He was able to effectively be a chameleon. He could be anybody he wanted at any time.
Do you think he had bipolar, split personality?
He had a lot of shit going on.
Where did you start seeing the telltale signs that he wasn't quite right?
The first night of arrival.
Straight away?
Straight away. I'm happy to talk about that.
Yeah, what happened?
We was talking about the business venture, the mobile application. It's different now, so I don't really want to talk about that. But you know, at the time, it was a big thing for me. So we was talking about how we was going to release it, the functionality of the game, the mechanics, so on. And he was high on something. At the time, I was looking around the boat. There was a lot of drugs. You know, we're talking kilos of the shit. Crystal meth, which he's made himself through whatever ingredients. He'd managed to create some sort of substance that gave him very heightened psychosis, and he took a lot of the shit. So as I'm talking to him about what I'm to do with the application, he keeps talking about Mrs. Jones and can we do this with Mrs. Jones? I'm thinking, who the fuck is Mrs. Jones? You know, this is a bit strange. So it got to the point where his mood changed. I could feel the energy from him, and he was staring through me literally. So I was giving it like, you know, what's going on? As I was leaving the boat to go back to my room, he said to one of the security guards at that time, I wasn't armed security at this time, he said to one of the security guards, I want this boy dropped in the sea. And that was the first night.
He wanted to kill you?
At that particular time, he either wanted to scare or inflict fear into me, or his mind wanted to kill me at that particular time, but we created a resolution the next day.
Paranoia?
Absolutely. You know, he was I was some random guy that's turned up on his boat, he doesn't really know me, and then I was standing my ground with him. I wasn't backing down. You know, I was like, what's wrong with you? You know, can we have a normal conversation, you know?
Was there many people coming on off his boat?
I wouldn't say many, but there was certainly guests coming. He had a few guests coming from Canada, from America. He had some security guards that he used in the US come over to visit. Probably 10, 20 people, guests coming and going, yeah.
And what about the guy who done a lot of the footage for the Netflix documentary with the colour?
If we're happy to meet Robert King, yeah. So Robert was a unique individual. He was a retard, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. He was gifted. There was something wrong with the guy. He was evidently retarded, and John would call him retarded all the time. This is a renowned documentarian, and he's getting called a retard on the boat, but I don't think it was personal or there was any malice in it. I just think John was understanding of who he was. But yeah, Robert King was on the boat. He was a prominent figure. He actually fucked off and disappeared at one point because John pointed a gun at him, threatened to shoot him. So he got the fuck out of Dodge. Yeah.
Was that happening quite frequently?
For the first couple of weeks, yeah. The first couple of weeks, that's all it was. John was in a fucked up state. He had enhanced psychosis. He was laying down on the deck, staring through the deck. He took me out on a dinghy with one of his female guests, saying, you used to be in the army, didn't you? Can you jump in the water and see if there's any soldiers under the sea with webbed feet or whatever? He was paranoid. There was divers under the boats and all sorts of shit. And I certainly wasn't jumping in the sea because there was sharks. But the paranoia was heightened.
Did they smoke weed?
Every day. Every day.
Yeah, it's a strange kind of
And you know,
Personality
I've
disorder.
smoked cannabis myself, and I have historically, and I try to do it in moderation. We all know the effects of cannabis; it heightens psychosis, but it can do. So he's got an accumulation of cannabis, cocaine, crystal meth, all sorts of shit, and he's taking that, and he was a severe alcoholic. His capacity to have any sort of rational conversation just wasn't there.
Because he liked his hookers as well, did he not?
He liked his women.
Was he paying for his women? He must have been.
He had somebody on the boat who I would call his consort or his mistress, as well as his wife.
Yeah, the black lady, because in the documentary
Janice.
she says she was a brass.
Janice, we can talk about Janice later on.
She seemed sweet, but again, I don't know.
No, we can talk about Janice. I think I've got a lot of respect for Janice because after spending a lot of time with John, remind me where we was up to in a minute, James, but after spending a lot of time with John, I can visualize what she had to go through and what she was put through as a woman. And I worked on a short-term basis, some security for him in Cuba. So I've seen the conflict and the fallout with his wife, which any married couple have fallouts. But for me, he was able to control women more, probably due to how powerful he was. He was a powerful man.
Yeah, that's what I think. It's all about controlling what he can do for people, but it's like dangling the carrot so people stay. Mm-hmm. Even when you watch the Netflix documentary, it's like, I was getting the vibe of things were staged. I'm thinking, you're on the run.
Mm-hmm.
You've got coppers coming because you've got guns in your boat, and they're telling you to keep some guns. It's like it was staged for the camera. That's what I was getting.
It was certainly staged, and at one point things were getting mental, and he was firing blank firearms on the boat. He had like an Uzi type weapon, looked like a Mac-10. I don't know if it was a Mac-10, but it looked like a Mac-10. He's firing blanks on the boat, scaring the shit out of people, nearly deafening people. You sat next to him watching telly and he's fucking shooting a gun. To me, that's not normal behaviour. So that was inflicting fear in the security guards. At one particular time, we were stood outside, just normal, chatting away, no threat, people smoking weed, beautiful waters, turquoise waters, the Bahamas. He walks out with an M4 and starts fucking pointing everywhere, but it was like a show of power. But at this time, he's heightened on drugs, so everyone's stepping back thinking, is this cunt going to shoot us? Do you know what I mean?
You're living on edge every day.
Not every day. It was dependent on his mood. If he was on drugs, yeah, you didn't want to be around him. And when he was on drugs, the guests were refused access to the boat. It was John's private domain. It was, and nobody's allowed in. There was a risk of filming, etc. So I don't think John and his wife wanted people to see that. So, yeah.
How much security did he have?
Too much, in my opinion. I have to look back and think, I was working on security, but was there a threat? Was it just an image he wanted to purvey to his surrounding dock neighbours? Did he just want to look like he had stereotypical looking lads on the boat holding guns? So for me, Exuma, the Bahamas, it was an island where they had a failed festival a few years back. I can't remember. Was it the Fire Festival? It was, it's a famous island. There's not much crime there. It's a beautiful island. There's not much crime. The police are in control. The police even said to him, if you take any of these guns off this boat, my officers will not hesitate. Things got that crazy where the police actually put cameras on the boat so they could see what was going on.
Yeah, because is it just more for show then, having the armed guards?
I think so. Because the police are very competent in the Bahamas. They have a GSU, the suppression unit. They don't let people get any big in the Bahamas. If you're getting out of control and you're getting dangerous, you're getting killed. Mm-hmm. So he was out of his domain. He couldn't be that enforcer that he wanted to be in the Bahamas because they wouldn't allow him to be.
So that would have been a good place for him then. It kept him in his shell kind of thing.
No extradition.
Yeah.
I think that was the main appeal to him, the no extradition.
Mm-hmm.
So he could sit there and do whatever he wanted, taunt people, get involved in whatever activities that I didn't know about. Because obviously he didn't let me know everything that he was doing. I only seen and heard, and I was only told what I was supposed to know, but he was up to all sorts.
Did he ever come off the boat much?
Yeah, he'd come off the boat. He would go up to the yacht club. He'd go out to the festivals. At the time, it was the regatta in the Bahamas. They have all the super yachts coming. Something like a fairy tale. It was like been dropped in a movie, literally. So he was quite happy to go out and about locally. We had a car, so if he did want taken anywhere, the security team would drive him. I did drive a lot of the time because a lot of the Bohemians are just drunk or fucking high all the time. I don't know. I wanted to feel safe, in control, so I was the driver. So yeah, to answer your question, he was happy to go out.
How did you end up an armed guard for him?
One night, he said that there was a heightened security threat. He needed more security. There wasn't a heightened security threat. I actually look back in time and think, was he just trying to help me? Was he trying to give me more money, or did he actually need more security? And he did hire a lot of the locals. So I don't know. I don't know, James. If I look back after spending time with John, there probably was people coming for him, but they wouldn't have had accessibility to him in the Bahamas unless it was some sort of covert agent, some sort of spy, somebody like that. They wouldn't have had access to him.
Are you finding that a lot though? You question everything he done instead of just accepting what he done. You've got to then question every angle why he's done it.
I'm quite an aware person, and people read body language. You know, I've lived a lot, so I was assessing him and I was thinking, you're not telling the complete truth all of the time. And I could understand his behaviours. I could see what he was doing, and I think he acknowledged he could see that I was a bright lad. I was intelligent. I think he even mentioned that in the film, or something to that effect. And I think through that we gained some sort of a connection. I wouldn't say it was some sort of telepathic connection, but I could look at him as if to say, "You're full of shit," and he'd know what I was saying. Do you understand?
Did you trust him?
I don't trust anybody, James. So I'm going to say no to that. Did I trust him? No.
I wouldn't have trusted him. But then again,
at that time, you've got to look from my perspective. I was trying to retire my whole family. You know, at this time, I'm dropping a mobile application which has got the capability to retire all of my family. I was more concerned on not trying to impress him, but trying to stay on the right side of him.
yeah, because everybody's got an agenda.
Of course, I had an agenda. It was business.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was business.
You're putting up with shit basically to get that end product.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened with the app?
He shut it down, so it made a shitload of money within 6 weeks. It was forecast it was going to do millions. It would have done millions, and because he was as powerful as he was, and he endorsed it, he just shut it down. But that became a regular trend. Anybody that he flew over to work on with any sort of venture, and big ventures, you know, like crypto debit cards, where you can go completely anonymous and completely detached from anything. You don't need anybody. You know, there was some serious tech out there. He shut them all down, and I think it was just, again, his show of power. It's like he gave me a winning lottery ticket and took it away from me. But in hindsight, I look back, I probably wasn't ready for that sort of wealth. So I'm glad he did what he did at that time, but it was certainly a show of power.
So your app got moving, it got approved.
It got moved, it got approved, it trended, we had downloads, it was working, it was making money. And he just said he wanted it shut it down. He said, I want it taken off the Play Store straight away, no questions asked, and told the developer to take it down, and boom, that was the end of it.
And what you thinking then?
I was fucking pissed. Right, at this time, James, I've temporarily visited my family back in the UK. So I'd gone back home for about, I can't remember, it was a week or 2 weeks, on the basis that I was flying back out to the Bahamas. So we'd drop the application and flying back home to do some family business and flying back out to the Bahamas. As I land back in the Bahamas, ready, hyped up, ready to go, I walk back on the boat, and that's when he drops it on me and he says, I want this app taken down, blah, blah, blah. Where he was on drugs, we'll go into it a little bit further. I was thinking, could you not just send me a fucking email? You've just flown me around the world to tell me this. You know, so I think there was more to come thereafter, but that particular time I was pissed. I was pissed off.
Is that because you went home and left him?
No, absolutely not, because it was a scheduled visit. So when we dropped the application, I'd only flown out on the provision that I was going to be there for a short amount of time. But I'd arranged to fly back to the UK. He'd provided flight money. He'd transferred me some cryptocurrency so I could fly back. I could fly back out within a few weeks. So it was a planned return.
How much could that have app made?
With his endorsement and his constant promotion and his help, with a bit of assistance and his team behind it, tens of millions.
And he shut it down.
And he shut it down. And you've got to look from his perspective or his narrative. Why did he do that? He was already a very, very, very wealthy man. The money wasn't important to him. He got what he wanted. His name was hitting the news. His mobile application had news articles written about it. He'd got the publicity that he wanted. So irrespective where it made money thereafter, I don't think he really gave a shit.
Could he have made money anywhere?
Absolutely. He was, in my opinion, one of the early creators or contributor creators of the blockchain. So he was early in crypto. He was an early adopter.
What was crypto? Where was that at?
At that particular time, Bitcoin was at $3,000. We're at about 85 grand now, James. So you can see, within a 5-year period where crypto was going.
I got offered the crypto, was it 7-8 years ago at $5,000?
What was it? Was it a Bitcoin or something?
Bitcoin just over $5,000. And I thought, I'm not touching that shit.
Have you got regrets of that?
Of course you have, because I'm thinking, imagine putting money down in that now. You see the guy...
Invest in XRP.
You see the guy who lost 100 million, it's in his computer and he threw his computer out or something. The guy's from Wales, I think. and it's worth over 100 million. He's searched every bin site in the land.
Personally, I'd be in that tip and I'd be looking for it, and I don't think I'd give up, because how can you live with thinking it's 300 million or XYZ or whatever it is on some sort of stick? It'd torture you for the rest of your life. I think to be able to deal with that, you'd have to have a detachment from money.
Do you think he's got the inside know though of what's going to pop? Because whether he's a CIA agent, whether he's a spy or something, he's definitely got some pull.
Well,
where they need him on this planet for to crack codes or whatever it is. He must have something, because you're not just going to sit with an old man and let him travel the world and make videos and documentaries and just let him get away with what he's doing. It just seems a bit far-fetched. So do you think he was being used for what he could gain from other people?
Here's how I look at it, James. He was that high up, he was that elite, he had that many contacts, that he was certainly... He certainly wasn't who everybody thought he was. There was a little bit more to it. There was some sort of secretive knowledge about who he was and his connections were, and you have to look at that and rationalise that. He was one of the best developers in the world, and he had access to all of the best developers in the world. We could call him anonymous. He had access to these people. Who do you employ if there's nobody better?
What about his crypto? Did they have much money in crypto?
To answer your question in full, I certainly witnessed him accessing wallets with ridiculous amounts of cryptocurrency within them. And if we make reference to the Netflix documentary, he was in court on tax evasion charges. I think it was about 23 million. Whether that was applied to take him down because he was getting too big, or whether he was genuinely avoiding tax, he certainly knew how to make money from crypto and avoid paying tax in crypto.
Yeah, I don't understand. Why not just pay it? You know, it's like a game, because he mentions the
It's
tax.
the game, it's that word, it's
that
the
I'm
game.
not paying taxes. It states it, and I think,
But what
doesn't make
what puts him above the law? Because at the end of the day, I don't like to pay tax. Nobody wants to pay tax. But at the end of the day, if you don't pay tax, somebody's going to come looking for you, unless you have the means to be competent enough to use the blockchain to the full extent where you can hide your money and you can be completely independent away from any bank. You can avoid paying tax. But with regulations, etc., which have been implemented into the blockchain, etc., and it having a full ledger online where you can track every single transaction, it's only going to be a matter of time before the enforcement of tax is integrated across the whole blockchain. But because it's new, it's innovative, it's unregulated, there is loopholes for crime, etc. And if you didn't want to pay tax, you wouldn't necessarily have to.
Was he setting people up for business and then ripping it away from them? Was that another form of control, what he'd done with you? Because if you start making money, you're not want to be around him. Was that another form of control, possibly, that he's took away your business?
Everybody wanted to work with him. You know, he had that name, and nobody wanted to take him on because they'd get hacked. They knew how powerful he was, so he was a person that was respected, irrespective of his individual personality and who he was. So if you look at his business acumen, he had a lot of reach, and you could do a lot of things with him. So yeah.
What businesses did he have?
While I was with him, James, all I seen was cryptocurrency projects. So he would do initial ICOs, so we've got initial coin offerings, and he would have involvement in them, and he would ensure that there was a cumulative market cap within these coins through his marketing and promotion. Pump and dumps, you know, whether it's controversial, whether it's a crime, but he was early in coins. They were getting pumped through the roof, and he was extracting millions. Clever man.
Scamming people?
Yes, absolutely.
You see Elon Musk doing that with his following. He talks about Bitcoin or certain cryptos, and they go through the roof, 7 billion, 10 billion, just because of certain tweets that they promote. Do you think they'll work together, all these elites?
Absolutely. They've got to be. Well, you look at Donald Trump. This is only my assumption. You know, he has a lot of connection to QAnon. You know, John had a connection to QAnon. It was mentioned a lot.
What's that?
I don't really know. Some sort of elite sociology club, something where quantum physics goes on, things go on which your ordinary person like you and me wouldn't understand, but you're delving into a realm of science, you know. So John had connections within sociology and within those type of people. So we had access to, what should we say, technology and processes and procedures that you and me won't understand. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think like the stuff that we see now, the technology that we have, whoever's in control of the world, they're hundreds of years ahead, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years. Do you believe there could be like a cabal, like a kind of Illuminati sort of group
Absolutely, and just to finish up what you said previously, Donald Trump, he's got his own coin. Donald Trump has his own cryptocurrency coin. Is there some sort of group? If you go to the top of the chain, my opinion is the CIA are the richest families in America, and they control all narratives. And again, this is only my opinion through spending time with John. I think these people are selected through some sort of ancient bloodlines or something like that. But I'm getting to the point in my life where conspiracies don't really interest me. I know when you delve deep into the rabbit hole, things are not quite what you're seeing, and the world's not quite as it's shown to people. You can drive yourself mad, James. So sometimes you just have to get on with your normal shit.
Like you say, these people they move different. And I always say these people like Bezos and Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, they're kind of alien tendencies. They're kind of not human. I get that, but I don't listen. I could just be off my head.
Well, you've got the reptilian term, don't you? Blue blood, so on, and everybody delves into the conspiracies of Illuminati, the skull and crossbones, etc. All I know is through being a Freemason, and I've got a lot of respect to Freemasonry, but there's two sides. There's a bright side and there's a dark side. There's a dark sun and there's a bright sun. And I think if you start focusing on the dark sun, I think that's where it gets weird and wonderful. I think the CIA call it WWAFM. I don't know if that's quite right. Weird, wonderful, and fucking magic.
I think the Freemasons, I think they started in Scotland. We were actually speaking on the
Scottish,
way down.
Yeah.
I think that just because you're a Mason, you're not bad. I think the Illuminati stuff has kind of scared people off and think all Masons are bad. Like, people have their little clubs for somebody's a judge or the council. I distance
myself. I don't spend much time at lodge. I've not been to lodge for a long time. I still have some contact with the brethren. They're very, very intelligent men. But I think when you go into America, specifically, Freemasonry is different, and there's levels to the game. And I think when you should get very high up in power, I think that's when you get access to the deep, dark, and fucked up shit, which to some extent I feel like I've experienced, whether that's connected to some sort of psychosis, some sort of me feeling like I'm going mad, some sort of PTSD. After spending time with John, I have to question reality sometimes.
But you've got to question these people who are so high up, these billionaires who are worth 100 billion, 300 billion, the rich families. They must have some sort of blueprint. There's how to keep it, how to manipulate it, because they say like 2 or 3 generations of your wealth, if you're wealthy, it'll be stripped away within 2 or 3 generations. These people have kept it for thousands of years. So there must be something how they've kept the scripts and the plans to still stay at the top. I always say this, like, I don't know. I know the Vatican has got mile-long of libraries and books, but I think it could be, look at the way the pyramids are created. People think it's lasers and stuff. So the technology we've had is thousands of years old. Whether they rewrite history and just wipe everybody out and start again, but I think these people have got the books, whether it's Israel or whoever it is, they've got the scriptures to understand wealth, understand how manipulation works, understanding the key elements of control. And that these people stay at the top of their game for so long. So there must be something, there must be some hidden keys or whatever it is to keep them at the top and have everybody under control, because we're still all controlled. I'm still driving a car. I'm still got my fucking mobile phone. I still got a banking system. I still stay in a city. I can promote a good message of freedom.
I can teach you how to not be in a banking system.
You can tell me, bro, but I'm interested, but the break free of the matrix, but it's fucking hard. Because we're so, my job is social media. And social media is the biggest corruption in the world, and I know it's damaging my mind. I know I'm addicted to it.
Let me say something to you now. So these people, they control the TV, they can control the news, etc. Let's say today they said to everybody, time travel is possible, and this is how we did it. Everybody would be walking around saying time travel is possible. People will go a bit mad at first, they won't be able to comprehend it, but because they'd been told that it was possible, it would become factual. I know that sounds now a bit deluded, and if you say time travel is possible, people are like, you're fucking mentally ill, what are you talking about? But if it was put on TV, people would potentially believe it. So if we're going to simplify that, they control everything, James.
Well, what they see on TV, 95% of people believe. They told you the Twin Towers was a terrorist attack. And if you actually look at it...
In my opinion, it was a fucking ritual.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Because if you look who bought it and who put the insurance job out in it, who never showed up to work that day, how the airplane crashes and it's not a demolition.
Have you ever read the redacted files that were released?
No.
There was more going on.
Yeah, but it's the It's how the airplane crashes and the only thing that fucking survives is someone's passport. Like, that blows my mind. How, no, even if you look at the moon landings now, it's not to go down all these rabbit holes, but the boots are different. How they got a car, like a little machine car into these, like nothing adds up. No, and it's, but again, the power of TV. People believe that, and people still believe it to this day. I know Steph thinks the moon landings were real, but fuck me, the amount of people who I've interviewed now.
Can you visualize a human being sent into space and landing on another planet and being able to breathe perfectly and fly all the way back home again? You've got to question things, haven't you? Come on.
Because the technology that we have on our iPhone is more than what they had in the Apollo going up to the moon.
Or that was only disclosed to us. In my opinion, the technology that they had was far more advanced, but it was only presented to the world as this is where we're up to.
I do think whoever controls the world are so far advanced, 100 years, 200 years, they know what's going to be trending 5 years, 10 years. They manipulate the stock markets.
This might sound deluded and I might seem mentally ill. I've seen Anonymous, and let's just say Anonymous, control the stock markets and push it in whichever direction they want, as and when they want.
We print money. We actually print money, but yet we tax people nearly 60%. I think they were taxing people up to 90% away back in the 60s. Like, it's fucking so far-fetched how the way we're going. They tax people 60%, but yet we print money. We could easily be paying NHS doctors. We could easily be paying the homeless. We could easily be helping the world in a better place, but we've got people slaving 95, taking half your money. Your bills are too high, your food bills are too high, but yet they've got us working for pennies, but yet the fuckers print money. I know people say, oh, but you can't just give everybody money, but you can fucking print it. There's a way and there's a scheme where you can get everybody in the world thriving, but the reason, again, it's all about control. Keep people dumbed down, keep the vibration low where they don't think outside the box. People are too caught up in their own fucking world. They don't ask real questions. Who's behind that? Why are they saying that? What the fuck is going on? We're just so caught up in, oh, we'll go and watch the cricket tonight or the football, go for a drink, eat some shit.
Oh, I like you. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm a trader. Money can be printed.
Yeah.
You know, you need access to capital to be able to print money. But if you have a skill set and you follow the market makers or the banks or the institutions, if you get an insight or a trend, or if you look at probabilities and you understand the flow of money, you've got to understand what money is, first of all, and how money is created. If you can delve into that, money is printed certainly by the elites.
Yeah.
And you've got to look at the power of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has the capability to do anything that a human being can do 10 times better. It's got an IQ of 1100. ChatGPT has an IQ of 1100. It can outperform any human being. It can trade for you. It can print your money. There's ways to do it. And if you have the capabilities, the skill set, and the people behind you, which they do, money's no issue.
Could we be artificial intelligence? Could we be aliens, avatars?
I like to call it alien intelligence. It's got to have been handed to us from somebody or somewhere at some particular moment in time in history. That's my opinion.
It is mind-boggling though, when you actually break it down for the brain and the
You
heart
have no
and the liver
idea.
and the kidneys, and we can buy into the religion of Adam and Eve. That just doesn't make
Well,
sense
look
to
at what
me.
the human body's capable of. It can cure cancer itself through fasting, in my opinion. You know, if you just look at health and nutrition and what you can do for the human body, it's a supercomputer. It's programmed to survive. It's programmed to fix itself. You know, if we're going to get deep, dark and wonderful, where did that come from? You know, somewhere along the line, are we a science experiment? Was we created? You know, if you look at heaven and earth, in my opinion, there's certainly no man in the sky. There's certainly, you know, no burning furnace down below. I believe that all comes down to a state of mind and how you'll be enslaved in your permanent dream state when you do go to sleep or when you die. There's certainly over time been some sort of creation of a story to create control within the masses.
We do create our own story. Our brain is like a memory card. When you go watch the Matrix, they say, what do you want to do? Learn how to fight. And they're just typing in the data. We can type in any data and make any moves we want in life, and our brain will store it. We can learn any language, fight the way we want to fight, create what we want to create. Everything that's created in this planet now could have been created 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. Even the man who created the airplane or the car, they've come up with that creation in their mind. They've thought about the process first.
Do you think that technology has been a lot more advanced than what it is now, and then it's all been reset?
I think we've devolved. I think we've went back in time. You look at the structures they had with the old buildings and the bells. Apparently they've reset it all because the bells had a frequency when they used to ring the bells.
Yeah, I understand in this. You're talking my language.
Yeah, so I think if you look at the pyramids, I look at the pyramids and I just quite don't understand why they can't be created I think, again, I don't know if that's to play with people's minds, but they look back there and they say it's to do with lasers. Somebody was using lasers to then create it with certain stars. Again, I don't know if even stars exist. I don't know if the moon exists, the sun exists. It doesn't make sense to me when you look at NASA pointing down at the Earth. Why is the Earth not spinning? It doesn't make sense that if the sun, why is it darkness out there, but yet we've got light here? Like, again, there's so many questions unanswered for me. And I've had people on speaking about UFOs and people's been lifted up by fucking aliens. But again, unless I see it with my own eyes, I've still got to question it. I don't know what the fuck is going on, but I would just love some answers to understand how we should live as human beings, because I think we're all backwards with it. I don't think we've got it right at all. I think we're all confused. Mental health's at an all-time high. Family life's breaking down. People are more addicted than ever. We're unhealthy as ever. Like, something's not quite right. The system is broken, and who the fuck would want to control the world to make other human beings sick? Like they talk about gods, but God wouldn't have that, God wouldn't have...
The devil was in man. I understand gematria, and this... I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent for you, James, but I spent a lot of time around John. I understand gematria and secret numbers.
What is that?
Well, let's go through it. Knowledge, wisdom, understanding. 1, 2, and 3. 4 being culture. 5 being perfection. 6 being equality. Or the devil was in man. The devil within man. So what were relevant to what we were speaking about there, the devil within man, man's capable of doing really, really bad, sick, sadistic things. 7 being the God number. 8 being destroy and rebuild culture. That's what we're going through right now. We're going through an era where culture's been destroyed and rebuilt with things like COVID, with the re-implementation of the financial system. There's a lot of shit going on behind the scenes, which is there's going to be a big aftermath. And 9 being the rebirth or the reborn. So in my opinion, the rebirth or the reborn is the world changing drastically and dramatically.
Yeah, I had David Icke's son on, Jamie, and he says there was a man who predicted 3 wars, World War I, World War II, and it was spot on. And he said there's going to be a World War III. Because they're wanting full control, they're wanting the digital currency, they're wanting facial recognition. Because China already has that in place, he's saying China's going to win this war, so everybody just goes through the world kind of policy of, this is what you're doing, full control, electric cars, 15-minute cities, vaccines, face masks, can't travel, you can only travel, it's like tokens. When you do good or work good, you'll get certain tokens to go and work away. If you do bad, they'll stop your money. Like, it's so fucked up, and that is the ultimate control. And I just think...
I'm going to educate you now, James. So blockchain technology has the power to eradicate the banking system overnight. So this is the reason why all the major banks have had to partner with certain cryptocurrency coins, because they're going to get left behind if they don't. So everything you've just described was effectively a cashless society, everything digital. That is going to happen. And the blockchain is a mechanism which can fully facilitate that, and it can facilitate full cross-border worldwide transactions instantaneously with a minimalistic fee. You can't do that with a bank. So we're going into that time.
Listen, I don't really use cash anyway.
No, we're getting to that point. Your debit card.
Yeah, but I still hate the fact of not having it, because if everything's on the system, but then again, I've got banking apps. Like, it's like a contradiction sometimes as well. How would
pensioners deal with that? You take away the money.
Yeah,
the loss. The world's not ready for that adoption yet. They're not ready. So, in my opinion, over the next 50 years, we're going to see a lot of change. But if we look at those layers to the game and the elites, what they already know what's going to happen. I believe this was planned a long, long, long time ago, and they now know what's going to happen in 10, 20, 30 years' time with it.
Yeah, I believe they're so far ahead in what's going to happen in their plans. Like, we just catch up with it. Even with lockdown, we caught up with it, but yet we're still agreeing. Like, I don't believe in any prime minister or any president. I think they're all full of shit, I think.
Ours is dog shit.
Yeah, terrible. But I just think that all are. I think to get to that level and be the puppet on the stage, I think there's somebody obviously pulling their strings, but I just think to get to that level, you've got to abide by their laws and their rules. Obviously, they can promote a message of, yeah, he's the right one, he's stopping trans women's competing in sports, and that's great because the majority of people buy into it, but what else do they do? They still create wars, they still create homelessness, they still create pain, they still create misery. I just think
we could be living in the fucking Garden of Eden, let's call it, heaven on earth. We could all be living in fucking paradise. There's enough money for everybody to live in peace and for everybody to have free energy, solar panels. There's enough there for everyone to do all right, or everybody to contribute and do the bit, and us all live in unity. But they certainly don't want that, because the controllers, they control narratives, and they want all the money. And if they was to allow us to live in that type of environment, wouldn't it be beautiful? It'd be fucking beautiful. Then they wouldn't be making no money, so they wouldn't allow it to happen.
Do you think it's greed?
Fucking right, it's greed.
It just causes a destruction in the world.
Unfortunately, you've got to look at greed as, there's a reason why it's one of the sins. Greed.
Yeah.
I'm so good at trading because I remove that element of greed. And if you're greedy in anything in life, I think karma will come and hit you.
See, the trading thing, is it patterns?
I think I'm a little bit autistic. I think it was undiagnosed as a kid, but I'm gifted. I have a certain way of looking at charts. It's all patterns and probabilities. That's all it is.
So after John get rid of your app, closed it down, nuked it, what happened then? How was the relationship?
Right, so if we're going to go back there, at that particular time, I lost my shit. And if Janice, bless her, she went through a lot. But if you look in the film, look at her face when my name is introduced, her face drops. I don't know whether that was because she knew what John was planning for me, which we'll go into that, or when he shut down my application, lost my shit, my energy just flew through. I switched a little bit. Janice was like trying to talk to me, and it was shut up, and the security team felt that energy. I'm sure even Steve said to John, "Fucking, this boy's a killer, John." I lost my shit. I was staring at him. I wanted to kill him. I wasn't fucking happy. He just took me fucking winning lottery ticket away. At that particular time, I didn't have a lot of money, so my anger reduced, and I come to the realization that I've got no app. I'm in the Bahamas with not a lot of money around dangerous people, and he just threw $500 at me, and I just sat at the table. Bearing in mind that the mobile application it generated a lot, but there was a lot of costs. So I was only a 25% shareholder. I wasn't very liquid at the time. I didn't have much money, and I think he knew that. It all come down to his control.
What was his excuse?
That he'd been receiving messages from a lot of people saying the app wasn't very good. There was negative press about it, etc. But I didn't give a shit. It was making money.
Do you think that was a valid excuse for him, though? Maybe it was possibly not that good, and he thought...
It could have been better, I've got to remove my ego, if I went into business with John McAfee, but if in hindsight, if I went back in time, I could have done it better. Maybe I could have been more of a contributor. Maybe I got lost in Bahamas party type environment, playing with fucking drugs and guns and fucking whatever shit's going on, Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got to look from his perspective. It could have been justified.
Did they ever talk about the killings? When on the documentary it says the neighbour poisoned his dog, and then the neighbour got killed.
He was a clever man, so he didn't directly say I did this, I did that, but he did certainly say to me that there'd been people that had crossed him in the past, and the houses had been burnt to the ground, and there'd been several people killed. Whether that was an image he wanted to portray to me to inflict that little bit more of element of fear, more of his lies, he was certainly capable of it.
Was he a gangster?
No, absolutely not.
No?
He wasn't a gangster. I've never been a gangster, James. I've never been a gangster. And I've got a movie I've seen for you, we all have to sometimes do some gangster things. John wasn't a gangster. He was a geek, but his money gave him power. So, was he a gangster? I look back now, he was like a fucking cartel boss.
Yeah, that's the kind of like with the guns and the drugs and the burning houses and the killings. Because in the documentary it talks about who was the young kid who was speaking quite snobby, sitting in the office, talking about, I don't know if it was his son or not, but I can't remember when they spoke.
Oh, there was somebody a ghostwriter or something.
Yeah, because it was reading up on how his dad abused him or something. Can't remember.
Yeah.
And he says that his dad was killed as well, but they think it was John who done it.
His mistress told me that John killed his dad, and it was in self-defense because he kept assaulting his mother, and he kept assaulting him. He broke his arm, and you've got to, if that's a true story, and you've got to look at a young kid in a very abusive, violent, I don't know, I don't want to call it atmosphere or upbringing, what the right word is. It would take a type of person, but I think instinctively anybody would want to protect the mother in those circumstances.
Definitely. Yeah. Does he have any kids, John?
He claims to have 47 children, but personally, I think he only had one daughter.
But then again,
it's another lie. It's that compulsive lying. But in controlling narratives, I don't know.
Look at Elon Musk. He's got like 12, 13 kids now. You don't know with these people, especially their women. But why would a man with so much money, marry prostitutes, and no disrespect to prostitutes, people change, people make better decisions, but why was it like he seems to have surrounded himself with the broken, because it seemed as if he could manipulate them easy.
If you look at prostitution from a woman's perspective, there's a lot of money in it. It's attractive, and you have to be honest, as a man, if you go and fuck a lot of women and get paid for it, would you do it? You know, so it's controversial whether it's right or wrong. I don't really want to say, but I think John liked those type of women because somewhere along the line they had some sort of psychological issues. Again, he could control them. It come down to that narrative.
What about he ran for presidency as well? But how true was that? Just another game?
Well, for me, you know, you're non-average stereotypical lad from Manchester working private armed security for at that particular time a US presidential candidate. You know, that's why I sometimes when I'm having my PTSD therapy, I'm thinking, fuck me, he was running for president at the time. He was never going to get he was never going to get it. He was never going to be president, but it gave him the opportunity to have that power. He could take the stage. He could speak to the world. And that's exactly what he did. Whether he had the significant reach that he wanted or not was to be questioned, but he certainly had the foundation to attempt to do that.
What was with the wigs and that he used to wear?
He's fucking deluded, isn't he? You know, I think that all comes down to look at the attention on me, and you asked me if he was a gangster. No, I think when he was younger, he was probably quite timid, bullied in school, that type of geek. You know, he was probably an avoider of violence. He probably wasn't his world, but when he generated his wealth, something happened. He took the drugs, he went weird, and he started doing all this weird shit, wearing the wigs, but it was all look at me. But for other people that were looking at him, they might be thinking, hold on, that's a bit weird. But in his head, he thought it was a glorification of him or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because obviously, when he's doing the wigs and that, he's always, even when he was meeting people, he always told them his name. And I thought, for somebody who's
McAfee,
for someone so intelligent, why the fuck would you not be flying under the radar?
You'd say nothing and you'd vanish.
Mm-hmm.
But he liked the attention on him. And if you look at the point of his life that he was at, he was late in his 70s. He probably knew he was on the back end of life. He wanted an escapade. He wanted fun. He was probably bored of his life. He thought, right, let's go and see how big I can make my name now. Let's see, you know, how far I can go, who I can piss off. I think it was all just a game to him. Everything was a game.
Did they ever talk about his past?
Not really. He was, I wouldn't say secretive, or if you tried to ask him questions, which I did, he would be more elusive than anything. So we didn't really like to go back in time.
Kind of skip round the questions.
Yeah.
It actually looks okay, man, if he was in his 70s with all the drugs and shit that he was doing.
Now, if you look at these elites, James, do they have access to something we don't? Do they have access to medicines that we don't?
Yeah,
do they have something? I actually got sent to Nassau, which is one of the most dangerous islands in the Bahamas. We talked about Exuma being one of the safest, and it really is. Nassau's the kiddie one. It's dangerous. He sent me there on a heroin. He gave me $1,400, and he actually sent me to pick up some illegal steroids, which weren't available in Exuma, you know, to maintain his sex drive and so on. So I think things like his testosterone supplements, etc., or his TRT at a later age, he took whatever he needed to take to keep him looking young. But that was another story. I got picked up by an armed guard in Nassau, expensive hotel. We dropped off a Jamaican prostitute, the full fucking Monty. You know, I was dropped in the movie, I had that experience. And when I got back to the boat, he said, you made it. And I fucking smuggled his testosterone back for him. I've actually still got a piece of paper at home with his passport on it and his driving license, and it says, I am old and immobile. Please allow Jamie Edwards to pick up my prescriptions. And that was kind of my evidence to the chemist in Nassau. So can I have his testosterone, please?
So he was taking tests?
Yeah, he was tested. And he was a big man. If you look at him on TV, certainly when he was younger, he looks quite petite, he looks quite slim. He was a big man. He was, 6 foot plus. He was weighty in pounds. He had a presence about him.
He loved his dogs, no?
He loved his dogs. Yeah.
How many dogs did they have?
When I was on the boat, we had 2 German shepherds. One was called Axel. I can't remember the name of the other one. Some ridiculous looking poodle thing. Don't know what it was. It was a giant poodle and a pit bull. But they were... He loved him. For me, they were a pain in the ass. There was dog fucking everywhere, and they were shitting on the boat and all that. But yeah, he liked his dogs. I think as a man, you either like dogs or you don't. He loved him.
Did they ever speak about the killing of the neighbour?
He said, shall we watch the previous documentary? I don't know if I should be mentioning it or not. It was called Gringo. There was a previous documentary called Gringo about him. the backstory of that. I think it got taken down with his power or his influence. But he would indirectly brag that you don't fuck with the dogs or you get shot dead.
Because there was rumours the neighbour poisoned the dogs. He went out of town and the neighbour got killed.
Apparently, it was somebody called Eddie McAfee, the first documentary would claim. And he allegedly got paid $5,000 to go on whacking. And it all comes down to that third country element. $5,000 is a lot of money. So you're going to find a lot of dangerous dudes that are going to go and shoot someone dead for $5,000.
How many things was he on the run for? What was actually true?
He was certainly on the run for some sort of tax avoidance or financial related crimes. Was he wanted for the murder in Belize? I think he was wanted by the Belizean authorities, but he fled to Guatemala, was extradited back to America. There was no way of them charging him or having him extradited back into Belize. So I have to eliminate that. He couldn't have been wanted for that, because if they wanted him, they would have got him. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. So in my opinion, it was financial and money related, or it could have been related to his hacking capabilities and him pissing off the wrong people.
How much do you think he was worth?
He either spent all his money and he didn't have a lot left, or he had a significant amount of cryptocurrency which was allocated to the relevant people upon his death or prior to.
Because even his boat and that, if you're worth hundreds of millions, I think you could have got a bigger boat.
It was worth $1 million, the boat. And when we was in the Bahamas, there was another guest who'd said since we've been there, he spent $800,000 or something. That's a lot of money to spend in the Bahamas. I've been there, so how the fuck do you spend that sort of money? But he was going through money at a very fast rate. He was, he was burning it. So without going off at a tangent, he had millions, but I don't think he was anywhere near that hundreds of million mark where he used to be at.
Yeah, do you think he was just spending, living his kind of end of his life?
Well, if you look at his house in America, but then this could come down, it's controversial. We talked about somebody, if you get to that high and that magnitude, it's kind of vanish and stay off the radar. So would you want the big glorious mansion that stood out? Would you want all the supercars? He had a level of flamboyance to him, but he certainly wasn't materialistic.
Yeah, that's what, because the way he dressed and his clothes, just his shorts and his flip-flops, even though he had on, even though the boat, he could have probably had a bigger boat, you're just thinking, he lived quite an average life as well.
There was nearly £1 million in cash on the boat, and there was fucking hundreds of thousands of pounds of metal, gold and silver. But I think that could have been his accumulated wealth at that particular time that he had access to, if that makes sense. And he just took it all with him and went on the run. Because if you were going to go on the run knowing you're not going to go back to America, you wouldn't leave any assets or money there. They would be in banks, which he couldn't use because he wasn't allowed to use banks.
When did this say he was on the run? What year?
He was apparently on the run in 2012 with the Belizean authorities, and then he was on the run from American authorities or entities in 2019.
And when did they run for presidency?
2020 was when he was due to run for presidency, because we were living at his exile campaign headquarters in the Bahamas. So he was like a year in advance. It was the 2020 campaign.
And what was the other guards like?
I still keep in contact with some of them. I'm still good friends with, we use A-list is Choppy. Choppy's a good friend. I've been back to the Bahamas and spent some time with him. Bohemian people, they're like anybody else. The hustlers, they want to make money. They come from an island where there's the lack of opportunity, so they have to do what they have to do to make money. So whether I could say that I fully trusted all of them, I don't think you ever could trust anybody again. So you've certainly got to have that element of being skeptical of people that you're around. Certainly in that environment, some bohemians are very dangerous. But to simplify and answer your question, they were all on a level, James. They were all on a level. They were all right.
I think the majority of humans are when you speak to them at a level. But like, people know with vibration and energy that something's off. You know, and I think if you just talk to people on a kind of level, like I says, everybody's got an agenda to survive. It's survival mode here, whether this is fucking hell.
Can you imagine being on an island where you've only got local businesses, bars and restaurants, and you've got to survive and make money, and you're living on one of the most sought after rich islands on the planet where it's very, very expensive to live, and that element of the island doesn't care whether you've got any money or not. You know, there's no in between. You've got to survive. They've got to make money. So the hustlers, the bohemian people, the hustlers.
Tax free?
I think the tax in the Bahamas is very different. I do believe it's tax-free. Yeah. I might be wrong. I'd have to check that, but I don't believe that there's tax in the Bahamas.
What about his health issues? Did he have any health issues?
So I have a recording of him saying that there is an old man who has pancreatic cancer who knows that his time left on this planet is short. I have to be under the presumption that he was making reference to himself. So there's a chance that he could have had some sort of cancer, James. And he was dying and he knew that. And if I reflect and go back in time and I look at the danger scenarios that we was put through, us and the other security guards, our lives were put at risk on multiple occasions. This motherfucker didn't care if he was going to die or not. He was prepared to sink that ship and go under with a smile on his face to get it. So I think personally, he was approaching his end of life and he had a terminal illness.
What sort of things did he put you in?
Right, we've got a few scenarios, but one which sticks to my mind very currently at the minute. So we have a dinghy on the boat. You see it in the film. He decides to take us all around the island to an exclusive resort. It was something like the Hilton or something. I can't remember the name of it, but it was an exclusive resort where we was going to all have food. There was 8 of us in this dinghy. So we've got multiple security guards, a couple of females, and we set off on a trip. Seas are pretty rough. The dinghy goes at a fair speed, and if it gets momentum, it goes fast. He was fucking hitting it, James. He was going at full throttle, pretty much leaving the water, smashing everybody about, and I mean, fucking us up to the point like where I'm holding onto a piece of rope, flying up in the air, smashing down on the deck. It got to the point where he was hurting me. I had fucking swelling on my elbows, swelling on my knees. Benny, one of the security guards, flew off in the air, flew off into the water, and John's saying, "Benny, what are you doing? It's shark-infested waters." I'm back on the boat like it was his fault. Moral of the story, we make it to this resort, we do what we do, and we have a beautiful day, but we head back, and some of the locals are looking at us saying, "You're brave." Obviously, it's getting late. I'm oblivious. The sea's getting rough in it. So we're about half a mile to a mile away from the shore. You can see it in the distance. He's erratic behaviour. The dinghy starts filling up with water. So at this point, we've already stopped at a pig island. We've got a baby pig on the boat, which has been stolen. I'm pissing with blood, nearly stabbed my spine in a bad fucking way. Boat's sinking, so then it hits me. I'm going to fucking die here. Something bad's going to happen. I stand up and death stare through me. I say, "You're taking the fucking piss." Don't know how I managed to stand. I turn around, the self-preservation instinct kicks in. I turn around, I see some rocks with all this slime shot on them. I think I'm not climbing onto them. Great, I'm going to have to swim to shore in shark-infested waters. I'm pissing with blood. I'm going to get fucking eaten. Luckily, they got all the water out of the bowl, but my reaction was then drop me the fuck off. And me and his wife got dropped off at a private beach, and he fucks off laughing, doing all his shit, ha ha ha, whatever, fucks off like a fucking lunatic. But I'm then stood there on this beach, all smashed up to fuck. Bearing in mind I'm working armed security, I've got to protect his wife. Fucking, do you understand? And fucking, I stood on this beach, just walked into a bar like James Bond, and then it dawns on me, I've got to protect his wife. I've got to get back to the boat. I'm the only security guard. I get some girls who we knew on the island to pick us up. I think it was Benny's girlfriend at the time. They pick us up, and then the first thing Johnny says is, "I don't know these bitches." I think, for fuck's sake, I've just never been bad. I've never been killed, and now I've got a wife who's maybe had a few drinks, not acting quite rational. You know, I don't know if that was the case or not. Bless her. But the other story, he nearly fucking killed me. He either knocked me out or nearly knocked me out. I had like a white light go through me. So I look back and I think it couldn't have been my life flashing before my eyes, because I would have been dead. But he pretty much nearly knocked me out, James. He fucked me up. He did some shit to me.
See, when you were recording him, see if he found out, would he have killed you?
He had the capability to do so. But if I look back in time now, I think he knew what I was doing. And I think he was testing me to see to what extremities I would go to if he pushed me, so he could deliver an aftermath to me through his anonymous contacts after his death, if that makes sense to you. So we can come back to that, another dangerous scenario. We have a heightened security threat. We're going to have a military intervention. They're coming to capture me for all my charges in America. We've got to leave now, and we've got to sail to Cuba. What the fuck's going on? So within 10 minutes, we were literally fucking fueling up the boat, and we're fucking off to Cuba. Was there a threat? No, I think it was all part of this extravagant story at that particular time. But now in hindsight, when I look backwards, there was certainly a possibility. Moral of the story, without me getting long-winded, James, I was given a 10-minute tutorial on how to sail the yacht by the captain who was brought in from Turks and Caicos, and we sailed it all the way to Cuba through 9,000 feet high seas, and we're not talking no little waves. And we sailed all the way to Cuba. But if I'm looking back now, we had no life vests. We were in dangerous seas. We just had a mechanical issue on the boat. The boat could have stopped working any time. It could have capsized. It could have flipped over. It was fucking dangerous. You know, I was sailing it and it was pitch black. I had waves coming over the whole boat, and it felt like the boat was being fully submerged and going underwater. Literally, to me, that was fucking dangerous. You know, do you understand?
You say you struggle mentally with him. What happened? How did your mind go?
At that time, I was very content and comfortable. I was all right. And I don't know whether it was part of his conditioning, but if I'm looking back through some of these scenarios that I'm explaining to you, I'm thinking, why did you put me through that scenario? Why was I the person sailing the boat? At one point, I fell asleep outside and the captain took over. Within 40 minutes, he come and woke me up and said, it's your turn to sail again. And if I look back, there's a possibility he was seeing how I would act under sleep deprivation. You know, like you'd fucking train a Navy SEAL or something. I've never been in the army. I've never been connected to any military force or anything like that. I think he was testing me and putting me through the extremities of what is this lad capable of.
What sort of connections did he have? Who was he in contact with? Any big names?
He claimed to be in contact with Satoshi Nakamoto, who was the creator of Bitcoin. And he still has an anonymous identity. So he would certainly be a prominent figure if he was in contact with him. He claimed to be in contact with the CIA and having conversations with the CIA. He seemed to have some sort of a disagreement or a tiff or some sort of war with Hillary Clinton. Can't quite explain why. I think that's maybe through to some historical hacking and information or evidence that he may or may not have had access to.
Did they ever talk about NASA?
No. I would have loved to. That would have been my foresight. I would have loved him to have gone down that hole and talked about his time on the Apollo 13 program. But if you look back at technology at that particular time, we mentioned this earlier, it was either more advanced than we knew about, or they were dealing with old obsolete technology, or it would be to us now. They did an extremely good job to make things happen with the level of where technology was at that time.
So obviously with Hillary Clinton, and it came out about her emails and fucking eating bodies, and like you don't even know what's real or what's fake anymore. But I think the Clintons have killed, or people who's been around them, there's been like 40 odd mysterious deaths.
Well, all I've got to say, and somebody said this in the documentary, you know, you don't fuck with a cartel.
They're the proper gangsters.
You don't fuck with a cartel. And if you look at the major cartels, Sinaloa or wherever, they're all controlled by bigger people.
So he never spoke about NASA, never done anything?
No, I would have loved him to speak about that, but no, he didn't. Again, it's all part of that. He didn't really go back in time. He didn't really want to reveal anything about his past to anybody.
What do you think he was hiding?
Childhood trauma.
Do you think that's what all stems down to? He's just scared little boy and all that bravado is just all fake?
I've got to my 40s now, James, and I don't care what you say. In life, some things, they stick with you. You have to become solid, you have to become unbreakable as a man, you have to deal with your shit. But I think he enslaved himself in the present through things that had happened in his past. But if you can imagine whacking your own father, that would play some sort of an impact on you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you're going to struggle with that and killing a neighbour and fuck knows who. Listen, that's if he's killed anybody. But
if I'm talking hypothetical, and but these are the things which have been mentioned or speculated. If he did kill his dad, there would have had to have been a reason behind it, but that would stick with it.
What about his wife? How was the relation?
Janice,
the last one, yeah.
Janice, I've got to say, he did truly love her. You know, I think John would claim that he was that free and you don't have any attachment to anything or anybody. I've seen a different side to him. I've seen a little bit of an emotion. I think she stuck with him. And if I look back on their relationship and the things that I've seen between them, I think Janice was probably the most loyal woman that he'd ever been with. And she was do or die, Bonnie and Clyde, gangster as fuck.
Do you think everybody's walked away from him? Do you think that was his tactics, to be a cunt, for people to walk away because they've had enough? He would just push people to the brink and she was the only one who stayed?
He'd be clever enough to manipulate people like that. So yeah, we can go with that.
Very strange character, but do you know what? I'd have loved to have interviewed him because it's very intriguing. like the mass manipulation, the gameplay, and the levels that he got to create.
He
that.
would have manipulated the shit out of you.
Yeah.
He would have tried. I'm looking in your eyes. You're a clever man. You're not wet behind the ears, but he would have tried. He would have tried with you.
And they've probably got away with it because of what he's done through the years. Like you say, he's a mass manipulator, but there's still been a great conversation.
I believe he did some sort of NLP on me. He was a mentalist. He could put people under, grab hold of them, go fucking sleep. He could do all that shit.
Hypnotist.
Yeah. He did it to me without my consent.
Do you think that's how he had full control over people? Would you have done anything for him?
Well, I'm going to tell you a little story now. I'm going off of a tangent, but I'm going to get to a pinnacle. One night, we're all on the bath salt shit. Not me. I had a few joints. Not about the Class A's. So they're all there. Everybody's doing the shit. Firearms being pointed at everybody. I got to the point where I thought, this is a bit scary. I could get shot. It dawned on me. Even though we're all partied up and whatever, this gun's been pointed. No safeties. Bullets in chambers. Dangerous shit. I actually picked up an M4 and a book, and I went down to my cabin and locked myself in the room. Cocked the M4. You heard it. At this time, this was like self-preservation. It was in case. There's all weird shit going on. I might have to fucking shoot everybody. And I speak to my therapist, and they say I was going to kill everyone. At this time, it made me feel that threatened that I needed to lock myself in a room with a gun. I sat there and read this book. I can't remember a single word of it. I look back and think that book was placed there on purpose. And the wording within it was part of his contribution or conditioning, something what he did to me. So would I do anything for him? That doesn't answer your question. So the next day, I'm told to go upstairs and get my gun. I'm on the only security guard on the boat. So got a Glock upstairs, pick up the Glock. I'm sat there on the table downstairs looking at the door. Gun there ready. One of the security guards had been sacked through stealing some money or anything, or something went on. They come on the boat intoxicated. For one moment, he whacked John's foot with a bottle. I thought, this guy's not supposed to be here. I was going to shoot him, or I should have shot him. I'm glad I didn't. I look at what could have happened if I did. But at that time, I was taken into that world where you felt like you're working for somebody very powerful and elite, that you have to be loyal to them. So would I have done anything for him? No, absolutely fucking not. But it was questionable at times.
Yeah, because when you talk about the NLP and the hypnotist kind of hypnosis where he's got you under a spell.
That night when I locked myself in the room with the M4 and I cocked it, he heard it. He heard me cock it. So irrespective of him being under the influence, he was still very aware and alert. I've got to put myself in his shoes. Some young lads come over to do business with me. Not quite like what's going on the boat. It's a little bit untoward, and he's going to lock himself in the room with a fucking gun. You'd be thinking, hold on, I don't know this kid. So I think he thought at that particular moment in time I was a little bit of a threat to him. And as I come upstairs the next morning, I put the M4 on the side like it was a fucking cup of coffee. And he grabbed hold of me, and fucking all I remember is some words being muttered and darkness coming over me. He did some mentalist, hypnotist shit on me. And as I come round, I had tears in my eyes, James. Instinctively, for a bit of Muay Thai, whatever in the past, put my fucking hand across his face. Instinctively, like that. And he went, there we go. You're going to be all right. You'll be all right. And I still don't know to this day what happened when I was hypnotised.
Even going off topic here, but even like your Jimmy Savile it says it was like a wizard. Like a wizard that he used to put like spells on people. That's why he got into the circles that he wanted, and that's why he could do what he wanted, because it was a mass manipulation of some fucking freaky energy that he had. Or whether they've tapped into something.
He was an expert in quantum physics, and you're delving into realms of things that I don't understand. Levels of psychology, there's levels to the game where you look at people like Darren Brown, Dynamo, there's a level of misdirection or a level of some sort of magic which I don't understand. He was able to do something to me and put me under. Does that suggest I'm a subjective person? I don't know. Or did he identify that I'd be able to do this to him? Or could he do it to everybody and everybody? I don't know. But you've got to look at that as a fucking powerful skill. Imagine being able to grip hold of somebody and go sleep when they fall asleep. Dangerous.
When did it all come crashing down with him? When did it catch up with him? Because he got the jail. Yous were all in the same cell. Were yous not?
Right. Well, there's the lucky thing, right? So I never went to the Dominican Republic. The timeline in the documentary is confusing. They actually sailed to Cuba twice. I've got footage on the social media showing us sailing to Cuba, etc. So they actually excluded that from the documentary. I don't know for whatever reason. The documentary was supposed to be an extended series, like several episodes. It could have been. There was that much footage, but it had to be compressed. So I think certain elements were removed. Something wasn't right. I had this gut feeling thinking something's not right here. Something bad's going to happen. And still to this day, sometimes when I think about John, I think something bad's going to happen to me. This is how fucking powerful and dangerous he was. I thought something's not right. So I didn't sail with him. But they sailed to the Dominican Republic and they were all arrested for the illegal importation of firearms. And they were all locked up. Ironically, they still had the mobile phones and they were all able to film and sell, etc. I think that was probably down to his power or his money. But yeah, Skate's been locked up in the Dominican Republic.
Was there any contact with him then? Was there any contact with Janice? Because that was the last time he was outside, free, was it not?
I was still in communication thereafter with John, through message, emails, etc. But that was kind of his pinnacle moment. He spent a little bit of time in London. He come to London. I actually offered to show him around London when he came to London, but he said he sent me a message saying we're not going to be here very long, Jamie. We're leaving soon. So it didn't prevail. He went to Spain and then he got locked up and he was found hanging in his jail cell. Jeffrey Epstein shit.
And Barcelona? Was it Barcelona?
Barcelona, exactly that, yeah.
So, see when he got to jail, how was he not extradited or anything? How was there no CIA or FBI? Or,
well, this is where you have to question things. If he was that powerful, did they fake his death? Did he disappear through a back door somewhere? That's one conspiracy. Or was he not that powerful and the courts just thought you're a criminal, you owe a lot of money through tax evasion, and we're going to extradite you back to the US? And that was which was granted at that time. And ironically, that was the evening when he was found hanging. You have to look at things like the whacked tattoo on his arm and him making social media posts weeks before his death saying, if I'm whacked, I did not kill myself, or if I'm found hanging, I didn't kill myself, making particular reference to being hanged. John was, I'm not saying this was the case and this happened, but John was capable of planning to hang himself knowing that he was going to die.
New talks, like everything's very tactical. It's like a chess game. So if he already knew he was getting extradited or whatever, he's not want to spend the rest of his life.
I don't know if that's true or fact, but can you imagine planning to hang yourself? And knowing that you are going to kill yourself, and eventually I'm pissing that many people off there, the authorities are going to lock me up, knowing that you're going to have to string yourself up. It's plausible. He was capable of it. He was that dangerous and he was that free in the mind that if he thought, I might only live for another 6 months, or I'll create this persona, or I'll create an illusion to the world that I was hung like Jeffrey Epstein, John would certainly love that attention to be on him and for the world to think that he was that big and that powerful. But in hindsight, he could have been. So,
it keeps his name alive.
We're
speaking about it. Like you said, there's an actual movie called The Illusionist. It's fucking unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Fucking brilliant film. I watched it not very long ago.
Christian Bale. That was a guy from The Greatest Showman and Edward Norton.
Right.
Two of the biggest magicians at the time.
Yeah.
And they're doing tricks. And Edward Norton, the one with Edward Norton, it kills a girl and he's got a plant that comes up.
So there's like the ghost type figurine, and they're thinking he's some sort of dealing with witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it all comes down to the end, how it's all like unbelievable movie. Both of them are unbelievable movies that don't get. But do you think that was kind of him, like a magician, like a craftsman?
Yeah, so there we go. That's the perfect metaphor. I think that's a metaphor. But yeah, that's perfect. He would create a reality and he'd think 10 steps forward. So if he wanted to misdirect you, he would misdirect you. Yeah, and he had the capability to delve into magic, whatever you define that as.
So how long was it in Barcelona prison for before he killed himself?
I think it was just a matter of weeks. It wasn't very long. It was only weeks, maybe a couple of months. I don't know the exact time, but it wasn't a long time, James.
Because Janice says in the documentary that he'd spoke, he was in good health and he was good spirits. Again, it could be manipulation tactic and kind of deflecting away. It could be a big game that everybody's involved in. But she says that he was fine, and like, was he allowed Twitter? How was he getting his Twitter posts?
It's still running. It's Twitter's still running, or X, shall we call it now? Janice, or his wife, has full control of that. So that's how they're still posting, and they are being honest to the masses, saying it is Janice in control of John's account, etc. But you've got to think that's 1 million followers. It's still a lot of reach. They're keeping his name alive through the audience.
In the end of the documentary, his old girlfriend says that she got a phone call with him, and this basically after he says he committed suicide. But again, is that another just a bit of magic where they're just keeping everybody's minds?
Well, there's two scenarios there. If he was that elite and powerful, and he was right up there, he could have just disappeared through a back door, and he could still be alive. It's unlikely. Hence why within the documentary there was a hint that he may still be alive. I think that again just creates people talking about John, and I think that was purposely said.
Because like I've said, when we watch the documentary, it's like everything's staged. Could it have been a possibility? He's staged Barcelona, he's in prison, he's going to get extradited, but you talk about his health. Maybe he's only got 6 months to live. So what I'll do is get to jail in Barcelona, stage it, say I'll never commit suicide, I'll never do this. He gets found hanging in his cell, but then goes and dies free and out his kind of comfort. But while it just keeps his legacy alive of the unknown and the question mark, was he killed? Was he Epstein?
Could you imagine going back 3 years and he knew that he was going to deceive the world into thinking that he was hung in a Spanish jail cell? That, to me, is a borderline psychopath or genius to be able to implement those steps and to do a meticulous plan that would work effectively. You know, it's...
People do them though.
Exactly.
People fucking do them. You look at some of those like husband and wives, and the husband pretends he get killed so they can get the insurance money. Like, you don't know what sort of insurance plan he had. You don't know what money he had tucked away. Nobody knows. Maybe you do know, but
well, I'd love to know, but or maybe I do know. But you previously asked me about his wealth. He could have had hundreds of millions. He could have had billions in crypto. I know the power of the blockchain, and I know the power of how money's created with cryptocurrency. He could have had billions, and he could have hid it all, and nobody would have had a fucking clue. That's one possibility. Or the other scenario was he didn't have much left. But if you was to look at John as an individual, and we're talking about how clever he was, I would sway towards the probability that he had a lot of wealth that was left to anonymous people.
Who would have left it to?
I have to put myself in his eyes. I would have wanted to look after my wife. So again, this is just speculation. I would hope that Janice is a very wealthy woman. I think she deserves that. And if not, it would have gone to his daughter, if his descendant. If, you know, I think that's any man's purpose and goal, is to create generational wealth and leave it behind for your children. I would have hoped that's what he did.
Has his daughter ever spoken out?
No, not that I know of.
What you thinking when you found out he was dead? Were you sad, relieved?
I was in a new relationship at the time. It didn't last very long because she wasn't the one. Head stuck with her ass type of woman, one of them. You understand, James? We've all been there. But it got me. And at the time, people were looking at me to say, what's wrong with you? Why you been affected by John McAfee? But they didn't understand that I'd spent quite a lot of time in his personal domain. And from a psychological perspective, whether it was right or wrong, I was treated like the son he never had. So that certainly had an effect on me.
So it did affect you then?
Yeah, it did. It did affect me. Somewhere along the line, I don't think love is the right word, but I cared for John, and I seen him for respectfully, the lonely old man that I thought he was.
Is that trauma bonding?
Probably.
Kind of Stockholm syndrome sort of?
I think, I don't know if this is a good thing to say or not, we had a few similarities in the way that we thought we could play chess. There was just a little bit of a gifted element to us both.
Yeah, it's like attracts like as well, isn't it? You probably see a resemblance of yourself with a bit of calculation and a bit of tactics, and bear in mind you've got an agenda to be there.
I wanted to make a fucking lot of money, or I wanted to retire all my family, and unfortunately it didn't go the way that I wanted it to. But my agenda at the time was, I'm retiring fucking everybody. I would have done. I'm going to, but at that time I would have done.
Why do you think he let you into his circle?
Because I was probably, and this is not me being egotistical, there was maybe others. I stood my ground with him. I was one of the only people that stood my ground with him, didn't pussyfoot around him. Any other guests had to kind of kneel and kiss his hand like he was a king. I ain't about that shit. I didn't do none of that. And if I disagreed with something, I told him. I think he respected that because nobody else would.
So when was it he died? 2001?
2000, I think it was June 2021, yeah.
Do you know about Machiavelli?
Elaborate.
He created his own death, but risen again. Tupac speaks about him a lot.
That's what I thought you was making reference to, but I'm a little bit naive as to a broader understanding. I'd have to look into that. But
Yeah, Tupac speaks about him a lot. That's why a lot of people think Tupac's still alive, because he always spoke about Machiavelli, who...
well, the people say Michael Jackson's still alive. You've got to... It's possible. It's unlikely, but it's possible, you know.
The hard thing about these people are they're so psychotic, they love the attention. It's difficult for me to believe that Tupac, who loved being in the limelight, who loved to, like, his music's timeless. Michael Jackson, he was an entertainer. John, an entertainer, they loved the attention. So it's difficult for them to set up their own death to then rise again and show again. But again, these people are so warped in their own fucking mind, and it must be tiresome doing interviews and getting attention and people stopping you all the time. Now, John was a kind of celebrity as well because he was very out there and running for presidency.
He was
money.
doing some daft fucked up shit, and he was doing a lot of content. He was doing a lot of podcasts. He was doing a lot of interaction with people with big reaches. You know, he wanted that audience. He wanted that showmanship. He wanted the attention on himself.
So how much has that affected you then, being around him? Because I know you struggle with PTSD. And
yeah, so I'm getting better. I'm on the mend. I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be all right, James. But I was dropped into a world which I probably wasn't built for, but I survived. You know, we'll talk about the Navy SEAL shit. I wasn't built to go through Navy SEAL type scenarios, but I survived them. So I think now I understand PTSD. I come back. I felt like I was a fucking gangster. I was coming back, you know. There was something wasn't right. I was still in character. It took me a long time to come down to reality and out of movie mode, and it took me a long time to get my head round the tech capabilities after his death. There's a lot of weird shit happened in my phone, anonymous messages, screen flickering around, things which we could talk about for absolutely hours, and I could show you and it'd blow you away. But John, in one of his recordings, which I have, mentions the 7 founding fathers of Anonymous. He was connected to, in my opinion, or he was the controller or the kingpin of, in my opinion, the best hackers in the world. And he would put a blueprint or a plan in place for me and other people to be tormented after his death.
that deep?
That deep.
Yeah, that's some fucking crazy shit, that, isn't it?
But again, that's down to his element of control. And I have to, in reflection, look back and think, was the malice? Was, like, I look back some of the things which have happened in my phone, or this NLP, which I think happened to me. I think, who the fuck authorised this? Who do you think you are? You know, some of these things are illegal. Obviously, you're dealing with somebody who doesn't care, and somebody that has no regard for the law. So from the perspective of John McAfee, he would be happy to cause chaos after his death, because again, it's all part of keeping his name going. And I was one of many, or one of several people that had an attempted conditioning through John McAfee.
Could he have been connected to other beings? E.T., aliens? Might be a bit far-fetched, but it's a possibility.
I don't know how to answer that, James, to be honest with you, because I'm a believer. And I believe once you get that high up in the chain, that some of the rulers or controllers of this earth could be from another dimension, whatever. So I have to say there, he had enough money, he had enough power, he had enough reach, and if the things that we believe exist or could exist, he would have access to them, absolutely.
Yeah, like some sort of black magic, white magic, but a few, because I've interviewed people who's worked in Area 51 and said UFOs are real, and I've interviewed pilots who said they've seen UFOs. Like, I genuinely don't know, unless I see it and go, fuck yeah, that's real. But there's, again, they talk about Project Bluebeam, it's a fake UFO invasion. I genuinely don't know, but he seemed like some sort of fucking sorcerer, you know, some sort of weird fucking...
It's close enough to the quantum physics. I've looked into it, and I've tried to understand some of the things that have happened after I've left John, because I've had what I would describe as out-of-body experiences, which were beyond mathematically possible, but happened, if that makes sense.
Do you think John's alive?
No, I think he's dead. I think he did hang himself in a Spanish jail cell, or he was hung in a Spanish jail cell. They're the only two scenarios for me.
Because of the hacking that he was doing?
Because of the magnitude of the problems he was creating for himself. He was a victim of his own demise. I said to him, why don't you just retire in a mansion somewhere and disappear and be that guy who vanishes? He could have been that person. He didn't need to be in the limelight. He didn't need to be chased. He didn't need to be who he was. He could have been a quiet millionaire. Somewhere within him, there was some sort of imbalance mentally where he had a point to prove to himself within his own personality, something relevant to his childhood. That's what I believe.
Could he have hacked into bank accounts
Yes.
and rinsed money?
100%.
Has some power to have though, innit?
It could hack into anything. And this is from my experience and some of the things that I've seen. If it's been built, it can be hacked. There's nothing that exists that cannot be hacked. Nothing. It only takes somebody cleverer than the person that built it. And if you're dealing with the capabilities of artificial intelligence, the things over the next 5-10 years are going to get strange and dangerous online.
I think it's already there.
I think I agree with you.
You know, I think our minds are deteriorating. I'm starting to lose little bits of memory as well, and I think, fuck me.
Well, if we're going to go deep down the rabbit hole, do we live in a simulation? Was the Will Smith slap staged because it has happened previously or historically? Do we live that in that element of a simulation where things and narratives are controlled to the extent and the point where technology gets that advanced, where it has to be reset because it gets dangerous? That's certainly a possibility in my opinion. We're going through an era now where AI is fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
And you have no idea where, hypothetically, if you had somebody that was extremely sick in the head and had extremely good tech capabilities, they could cause absolute chaos.
Yeah, if you can tap in AI, you can create anything and do anything. You've got the capabilities to take full control of the world. And like you say, if you look at the Egyptian times and the pyramids and certain structures on the planet, you think, how are they created? Is that such a time where you've got so advanced they've had to reset it again, maybe keep 500,000 people on the planet and then just rebuild again for the next few thousand years? Because if all humans were going this planet, this Earth would be a beautiful place. Everything would just rise and grow. And
Could you imagine if it was just trees, gardens,
nature,
tree houses, lakes? This sounds certainly getting old and at a state of peace in my life. Just flowers everywhere. You know, it's a fucking beautiful place to live. We'd live in peace. We would.
But they say that, who was it I was speaking to? AJ Roberts, he was saying the UK's got underneath it so much energy. And this is why they talk about the wind farms, because it dissolves people's energy. What it does is keeps the energy away, and it fucks with people's water inside. And we were talking about it. See, they've got the pylons.
Right.
So
yeah.
apparently the pylons keeps all the energy, so people don't raise their true vibration.
If you go back to the Tartarian area or the Tartarian state, free electric existed then, and it was through some sort of, like you've just described, some sort of accumulation or generation of energy.
Yeah, I say this, but electric cars were created 100 years ago, 150 years ago.
Well, if you're looking, we have things accessible to us nowadays like YouTube and things like that, which is going to get controversial because AI can replicate something where you won't know whether it's real or not.
Yeah.
So some of the content which comes online now, people may say, oh, it was made by AI, but there's a lot of historical footage of things that existed many, many years ago, which have been reinvented now as new technology, which is a load of shit.
So how was life been like after John then?
I've done a lot of evolving. I've grown as a person. I think through a lot of the experiences that John's put me through, there was some good, even though he's done some bad, and I've ended up having to go through some like ex-soldier PTSD therapy, even though I've never been in the army. I think living with John has improved my character, improved my personality, improved my perception on the world. I found God last year. I fucking had to, James. Not in the sense that I'm a Bible basher and I go around knocking on people's doors and things like that. But I believe you get to a certain point in your life where you do have to be a good person. You have to look back at the things that you've done wrong and correct them. You know, that's how far I went into the rabbit hole with John McAfee, where I actually had to walk into a church and question things.
Did you know that you were going to be in the Netflix documentary?
I didn't, when I was in the Bahamas, I didn't know that I was going to be in the documentary at that particular time. I was aware, I was oblivious as to what was going on, but the Robert King, who was the renowned documentarian on the boat at that time, he was there for a reason. He was there to film footage for the documentary. But I just thought it was all part of just documenting John's life. But to answer the question specifically, yes, I did know I was going to be in the documentary. Just not when I was in the Bahamas. I was actually approached by the film company asking if they could interview me, and I ended up having an 8-hour interview, full film crew at my house, and we did what you and me are doing now, and we sat down and we went into depth about John and living with John. Fortunately, I'm glad it's fortunately, they only took a small snippet of that and used it in the documentary. So I did know that it was coming, and I did have to sign a contract, etc.
Anything we missed out about John? Anything you would like to say, or anything?
If we're gonna nail it for John McAfee, he was certainly a pioneer, and he's been revolutionary in some of the things that he's done to help us with technology. But he was fucking dangerous, James. He was dangerous. I've been around a lot of dangerous men in my time. He was up there. He had some sort of personality disorder. Something wasn't right. And I felt sorry for him.
Tell me this, all the shit that he's put you through, struggling with PTSD, you've had some great times, you've had some bad times, you've been in danger, you didn't know whether he's going to kill you or not, but do you miss him?
No, I don't miss John, but I do miss being in the environment that I was in with him, because it was paradise. And if you remove the danger and the elements, I got to have some amazing life experiences.
Yeah, the partying, the fucking drugs and guns.
I sailed the fucking yacht to Cuba from the Bahamas. Who else has done that? You know, I've done some things. I've been out there, so I've got to look back and be grateful for the experience that I had with him. But he's certainly affected me. He's affected my life, and he's put me in a direction now where I'm driven and that motivated, and I truly believe I'm very quickly going to end up at the top. And part of his conditioning, I think he attempted to do good, even though he's done some bad.
It's mad though, because you see like the Facebook CEOs covering their camera on their laptops and stuff, so even they know how easy it is to get hacked.
I've seen some things. I'm not saying I can necessarily do these things, but I have some contacts, and I know that any mobile phone can be hacked and nobody's safe. I mean, it's as simple as that. Any phone on this planet can be hacked. Any camera can be activated. Anybody's messages can be infiltrated, can be hacked. Mobile, in my opinion, a smartphone is too smart, and they were made that smart for a reason.
Yeah, I believe so. Look at what they've done with the fucking Encros. All those kids, man, all those guys.
I think there was some level of naivety, and for me, there's simpler ways to communicate other than a mobile phone.
Fucking hand signals. Because if you're doing anything dodgy, keep your mouth shut. You know, snitches get put in ditches, and I think the majority of people in prisons because they've opened the coppers. The coppers know everything. Fucking everything with the technology they have, which is minor compared to like the CIA and stuff. Could they be bugged, bro?
I think that's just part of my.
Do you get paranoid?
Yeah, fucking all the time. It's not as bad now, but I used to be out looking over my shoulder thinking, yeah, this man could have had me killed at any time, and I stood my ground with him. And when I left the boat, you know, a lot of shit went on. I didn't back down. It carried on, you know. So I think that come down to that level of respect. But he had that much money, and if I put myself in issues, if I was taunting him and I was him, I would have had me whacked. You know, and he had the money to do so. So he's certainly left some level of paranoia on me, but I'm getting past it.
You've kept yourself in good shape. You do a lot of training.
It's all part of that ascension, the elevation.
You're very lean. Like, what's your secret? I've seen your videos and stuff. You're doing your pull-ups.
I feel like standing up and showing the six-pack. It all comes down to that mindset and level of discipline, and being good at trading. If you want to achieve anything in life, you have to impose a high level of discipline into it. And I think if we go back in time, when I dropped the mobile application with John, I wasn't at the point in my life where I was ready. I wasn't working hard. I wasn't putting the work in. I wasn't jumping on blogs. I wasn't doing what I needed to do. So I think I've learned a lot from John, and I think he's conditioned me to be successful in business, and he's taught me that in business you have to be ruthless, you have to have no mercy. I think it's all contributed to me wanting to ascend, me wanting to do well, me wanting to retire all my kids, me wanting to retire my mum. And you've got to start with health is wealth. You've got to look after yourself first. Healthy body, healthy mind, and you've got to go from there.
How's life now?
I'm doing all right. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a vision, and I know where I'm going to be. I'm working on some credible things. I'm at the point now where I have the capability to pass proprietary firm assessments on a consistent basis, which only a small percentage of people can do. If we go back in time a little bit, James, we were talking about the ability to print money. I personally believe in myself, and over the next 12 months, through the stock market, I'm going to print a ridiculous amount of money. So I'm doing all right. Yeah, I'm driven and focused. I know where I'm going.
Well, if you ever want to sponsor someone, Billy, you're more than happy to sponsor this podcast.
I'd love to speak to you again in the future about that.
Yeah, listen, no doubt, especially if you've come up with that idea, you had it at your fingertips. But this is life, it throws us curveballs, you know, and you think, why the fuck has that tested me? You know, everything's tests on this life, you know, on this realm or journey or whatever it is. Like, I've interviewed so many people and I've still not got an understanding of it. If not, it's made me question things even more, and it's pushed me back again from finding answers. Sometimes it's not even about finding answers.
Do you believe you're on a journey?
I believe we're all in journeys. I believe we're all right with script. I believe we're all trying to figure it out and do the right things, but I just think we're all so confused. I think we're so fucking lost in the true potential of our being and true potential of doing amazing in life. I think we're so confused and so disrupted by outside noise, by influence, by condition, by programming. It's difficult to unprogram 30, 40 years, you know. It's not just a case that happens overnight or you hear someone speaking. You just go straight back into your central, you just go straight back into old patterns, the way you think, you know, and the brain's such a powerful tool where it just repeats what it knows.
I wish people would read more and deviate away from television, because knowledge is power, and I think people... or as human beings, we have to absorb information. We have to be constantly evolving. And if you have a mindset like me and many other people who are driven and are going to be highly successful people, at some point you have to switch that mindset, and you have to become somebody else, and you have to look at the world differently, because we live in a bad world. It's not what we seem or what we think. There's layers and rules to the game, literally quoted by Tupac. And so to make the best out of the chaos, you just got to do your best for yourself and work on you.
What's your daily routine like now?
I train every single day, pretty much every day. I was recently diagnosed with hyperglycemia through fucking smoking weed over the years and eating shit. So my main focus is on eliminating any bad habits. Smoking's got to be null and void. That's going to have to be stopped. So
what's that you get diagnosed with? What's it called?
Hyperglycemia. It's like a pre-diabetes. So from a fit lad who's ripped and shredded and all that, I've done some damage to myself. I've got a lot of guilt. So for me, I've got to reverse like a blood condition. So my daily routine is look after myself, looking after my nutrition, making sure that I've got the right meal preps for me, etc. I spend a lot of time by myself. I spend a lot of time in the house, on the computer, on the laptop, practicing trading, proprietary firm assessments, writing memoirs, anything which is credible and productive. I don't do the pubs, I don't do the partying, none of that. Everything's just about getting to the top.
No doubt you'll get there, brother. For anybody watching, I know you've had your struggles. For anybody that's watching, it's maybe in a life of struggle, what advice would you have for them?
This is going to sound ruthless and brutal. Nobody's coming to save you in life. So irrespective of what mental illness you've got, whether it's PTSD or whether it's some sort of condition, anything which is relevant to any sort of mental health, whether you've been in the armed services or whether you've been through trauma, whether you've been through some gang shit, where you've seen firearms on the street, whatever it is, you have to take control of your own mind. You can seek your therapy, you can seek help, but ultimately it comes down to the way that you think, and you've got to want to do better for yourself, and it is as simple as that.
How are you feeling today?
Brilliant, great, on top of the world. I was looking forward to coming down and speaking to you. Reason being is, this is, for me, part of my therapy. I have not talked about this shit to many people. So I feel like getting it off the chest, writing the memoirs, giving the knowledge to other people, I feel like that's all going to be a contributor to me finally letting go
Yeah, flipping the chapter.
Yeah, man.
Did we miss anything out? Is there anything that you'd want off your chest?
I could give you multiple other scenarios where I've been put in danger and my life's been put at risk, but I think we've gone through the major ones, and I think we've talked about John to the extent where there's a level of respect for him. We've talked about him as a man and his business capabilities, and we've also looked at the other side of the extremities of how deep in the rabbit hole was he, how connected to elite people was he. You know, that we could talk about that for hours, but moral of the story, John McAfee was an incredible businessman, and he was a master manipulator.
Yeah, I think anybody who gets to that sort of level in business is so much sacrifice because all they care about is themselves, you know? Like, imagine having a family and everything, but you give it all up just to sit in the office and just constantly grind and hustle. Like, everybody's different, there's all different stages, but I just think when they get to those billions, I don't think they're normal humans, you know? I think it takes some mad drive to get to that level.
I agree with you here, and I think once you get to that level of the game, you've got that much money, I think it opens doors to other things.
Yeah.
Secret weird parties, secret weird meetings in fucking woods with secret weird fucking rituals. And I think for people to understand, to be able to comment or have an opinion on those things, you'd have to be an elite person. Other than that, it's left down to interpretation through people like you and me.
Did John ever mention Epstein?
Yes, and he claimed to have had a drone flying over his island, which I believe, and I have historically seen some sort of a drive, whether it be credential, factual, AI created or not. I have seen some shit above and on Epstein Island myself.
Just before we finish up, do you think John had that much information on people with hacking that he could have destroyed so many people, top families?
I think John was that elite where he was employed by somebody somewhere where he was a truth speaker, a freedom fighter, and when you put feet on the ground, ultimately he was trying to take on the bad elites. That's what he was trying to do. I think that's what he ultimately was trying to do. So then you've got to look at his end demise. He could have been killed. He could have been.
Yeah, like Epstein, especially with the contacts and getting Prince Andrews, and it's just, they become a threat, you know?
In my opinion, again, when you get to that level of the game, there's been some weird shit happening in history, and I think somewhere at some point in time, some sick fucker decided to adjust time. I believe that there's less months in a year, less days in a week, and so on. And I used to say differently. Thousands of years ago, somebody could have made up how many days in a week, how many days in a year, suppression of time. Through spending time with John, I think that all the elites and all these sick fuckers think it's acceptable to do all the shit that they do because these young girls are older than they're supposed to be, etc. Blah, blah, blah. But when you get to that level of the chain, why do they get all weird and fucked up and paedophilia and all that? I don't know. It changes them, or you have to go down that weird fucking route to be accepted. I don't know, but in my opinion, without me getting worked up, it's wrong.
Jamie, thanks for coming on today. It's been a mad story. Would you like to finish up on anything else?
I'm good, James, and I appreciate your time. And unless you've got anything else that you want me to add or anything specifically that you want me to elaborate on, I'm more than thankful for your time.
Yeah, no, listen, I think we've spoke about enough. We've took it on many journeys. I wish you nothing but the best for the future, brother. And keep fighting fit and keep doing what you're doing. And
I'm going straight to the top, James.
I can't wait to see it, brother. I wish you all the best.
Speak again. Thanks for your time.
God bless, bro.
Take care.